Good evening, Mount Vernon. This is Mayor Shawyn Patterson Howard, and we are coming to you about 45 minutes earlier than we usually do because tonight we have a few special guests. We will be having two different Facebook Lives tonight. Our first one will be with our Senator Jamal Bailey and our Congressman Elliot Engel. Hi, Senator Bailey. How are you? Oh, hold on. You're muted. We have to unmute you. There
All right.
you go. How you doing, Senator Bailey?
So, Madam Mayor, thank you for inviting me. And, I'm out here today in the Bronx portion of my district is a wonderful young lady by the name of Layla Capers, who sings for first responders nightly. And tonight was the last night that she was going to be doing this. So I had to make sure that, based upon schedules and conflicts, I wasn't able to get out here. But I'm excited that I'm able to come out here tonight. So that's why I'm joining you late. And that's why you hear there's so many amazing people in the background cheering this amazing young lady. So I had to make sure I was out here.
So, Senator Bailey, I want to say that you are a leader after my own heart. You understand the importance and the priority of going out and serving and supporting your community. And so, look, I would never have a problem with you being a few minutes late because you're out there supporting community. We here in Mount Vernon have just kind of been navigating our way through some things. There was a protest in Yonkers. We thought it was coming to Mount Vernon. We were trying to adjust for that. And they turned around and went back to Yonkers. And so, we were just trying to make sure that we were prepared to support and to make sure that things went well here in Mount Vernon. So I know you're out there with her.
Absolutely. So I'm going to head over to my car right now and just talk about, look, like the first song this young lady song was "Lean on Me" by the amazing Bill Withers. May he rest in peace. And this is a time where Black folks, we got to lean on each other. This is. Hey, how are you? Good to see you. That's how you know I'm really from here. My constituents are saying hello to me.
That's right.
What's up? How are you? Everybody doing well? I'm on with the mayor of Mount Vernon. Sundays with Shawyn. Sorry about that, but it feels good when you walk in your community and people are calling your name. It gives you a sense of feeling that you belong and that the people that have elected you, they elected you for the right reason to join them. So they sang the song "Lean on Me" by Bill Withers, and she sang it, and it was so beautiful and so timely for this moment that, Madam Mayor, we really got to lean on each other. It's been tough.
We absolutely have to lean on each other. Look, we've been going and dealing with COVID since maybe the last week of February. We've been on lockdown since mid-March for about 12, 13 weeks. And, then we had to, all of a sudden, everything went down in Georgia with Ahmaud Arbery, and down in Minneapolis, Minnesota with George Floyd. And what people don't understand is what happens to Black people in Russia happens to Black people all over the world.
Absolutely.
What happens in Georgia and Minnesota impacts us because we know at any time and at any moment, it could happen in our community. And so, unfortunately, what we've seen is a lot of people who are passionate and angry and hurting out protesting, which is our right as Americans. But unfortunately, we've also seen some outside agitators who really have no alliance with our cause also come in and want to break up things and turn peaceful protests into riots. And unfortunately, I made a post the other day. I said, you have to know the difference between white nationalists and allies. And I really mean that, because you have to know those who are coming to disrupt and turn your peaceful protests and take away and rob your message, and know those who are coming to stand beside you and with you in support of what you're doing. There's a big difference.
Most definitely. And you're right, Madam Mayor, your Facebook posts are generally on point. They're always on point because they come from the heart and they come with a message that we need to hear, right? And it's not about necessarily these individuals and what they're doing. It is about the appearance that what these infiltrators are doing gives to what we're doing, right? We are walking, we are marching, we are in the streets because we are, we're utilizing our First Amendment rights to protest. And
right.
protest and dissent are some of the greatest parts of democracy, right? You know, there's no possible way that you can hear all voices unless you heard dissent. So hearing dissent is important. And then when I was in Staten Island yesterday marching with Gwen Carr, the mother of Eric Garner, it was a peaceful protest. What's happening in the evenings, it has been something a little different, unfortunately. But we have to be able to walk and chew gum at the same time. We have to be able to say, look, we understand the reason why for protests, while still not condoning violence or looting or rioting or destruction of cities. There is a balance that we can strike where people can't say, hey, you're just doing one thing and that means you're for the other. That's not so as an elected official. That's no as a black man, and that's not so as anybody that has some common sense. So you should be able to understand why we're doing what we're doing, and understand that this is a pivotal point in American history. This is something that we haven't seen in my generation, at least as an adult. And I'm hoping that people are understanding what's happening, what's going on in our society. It's the time where you got to step up.
And I'm a Gen Xer, okay? I'm 52 years old. I turned 52 a few weeks ago. My mother marched during the civil rights era. And so that is something that I grew up with understanding and hearing about. I went to Howard University. And of course, Howard University, the Mecca, the capstone, yes, an incredible HBCU. There, they absolutely birthed in us a sense of social activism, a responsibility to speak up for the marginalized, the last, the least, the left out, the lost, and the left behind. And so that was something that we did. And we went to the Million Man March. We did the Million Women's March. We marched. Howard University and your HBC students and college students around the country have always been on the front line. I went to Howard University with Ras Baraka, who is the mayor of Newark. And when we were at Howard University, they put Lee Atwater on the board of Howard University, and he was a protege of Strom Thurmond. And we ended up having a riot at Howard, a protest that ended up turning into a riot where they, let dogs off and gas and everything else against us as students. And it was a protest that made the front page of the New York Times and the Post and the Washington Times. So we were protesting in college, and I continue to protest. But like you said, it's about the message. And so, for you, like you said, as a Black man, as a young man, as someone who is raising a family, as someone who is sitting in the state Senate, who was leading committees and who was a role model, not just in the state, but you're a rising star politically in the nation. What do you think? What would be the top 3, let's say 5 things? What are the top 5 things that you would tell our protesters that we should be asking for, that we should be demanding of our legislators and of our government at this time?
Certainly. So, for me, it comes down to police reform. And so I'll preface it, even though it's frustrating that I have to preface it. I want to say that myself and my colleagues in government, and I'll speak for a whole bunch of people, we respect what police do, right? That goes without saying. They run in when we run away, but that doesn't mean that we don't or can't demand accountability and transparency. And as the chairman of the Codes Committee, that's why I'm sponsoring these bills to repeal Civil Rights Section 50A, which is essentially a bar to the disciplinary records of officers, right? We want transparency. As people in our community, we deserve to know who's policing our streets, right? And when it comes to special prosecutor, we have an executive order that the Attorney General can assign a special prosecutor when it comes to a police killing, right? We need that codified. We need that into law, right? We need special prosecutor. We need the Stat Act. We need to make sure that we know who the police officers are and knowing the data around them. That's Senator Brad Hoylman's bill. That's one of my colleagues. The first 2 bills are mine. We need to make sure that these accountability measures are certainly taken care of. So that's 3, right? That's police reform. We have to make sure also, my good friend Senator Zelno Amiri, who I'm not sure if you're aware of him. He is a good brother of mine. He's a good friend, and he was pepper sprayed while peacefully protesting in Brooklyn. Now, it's not saying that we are different, right? But if a sitting state legislator,
that's right,
if a sitting state legislator is peacefully protesting, then that should send a strong message that this can happen to anybody, and that's what we're trying to say. He has a bill to talk about how the hearing officers that decide police misconduct cases are hired by the NYPD within the city of New York. I'm not exactly certain, but in my opinion, I believe that if you're looking to do something that's about transparency, it's not the smartest idea to have somebody from within the agency examining the agency itself. And there's another point about this that we need to make sure that we examine. The fifth point, which is more of a catch-all point, which is that criminal justice reform hasn't been completed just with discovery, bail, and speed trial. And hopefully, if we get 50A and if we get police misconduct reform and special prosecutor, once we do all of those things, it's still not done. Because what has been systematically built up to destroy us in so many years is not going to fall with the simple passage of legislation. We need buy-in. And we need buy-in not only from legislators, we need buy-in from community members, we need buy-in from law enforcement. Law enforcement, we need you. We need you to be able to say, you know what? As we've seen individual officers say, this does not reflect my views. This does not reflect who I am. This doesn't reflect me. I denounce this. We need to hear that more often. We need to hear that our brothers and sisters who are fighting the fight in law enforcement and risking their lives every day, that they know that within their profession, there's some work to do. Every profession has people who are less than above board, so to speak.
That's right.
Everybody, right? But for some reason, unfortunately, in law enforcement, it seems to be able to escape the consciousness that this is happening. Brothers and sisters in law enforcement, I respect you. I appreciate you. The job that you do is very difficult. I couldn't do it. I'm putting it out there. But we need you to, when the road is rough and your own are doing the wrong thing, we need you to step up. Understand why we take a knee, because people take a knee on us.
That's right. That's right. I mean, and that's so critically important, you know, going from someone who was a community leader and an activist to now an elected official. People want me to change my stance and change my voice. I've never hated cops. I've never disliked cops. Like you said, they run in when we get to run out. And so that's honorable. I have family members and lots of friends who are officers, but we know we have incredible officers who do community policing, who are here for our community, who are very respectful, who are role models. But then we also have some officers, as you do in any profession, that are not necessarily there for the right reasons. Some are there for power, some are there for money, some are there for influence. And we need to make sure that wherever they are, that they're respectful, that the biases, everyone has biases. I have my own biases. We have to be aware of our biases and how our biases show up in the work that we do. Anyone who tells me that they have no biases, they make me nervous, because then that means they are not self-aware. And if you are not self-aware, and if you cannot be honest with yourself about what your biases are, then you can't be honest with me about what your biases are. And then you can't really talk about how that impacts the work that you do on a daily basis. And so, you know, we always talk about screening and having proper screening of officers. We talk about dealing with disciplinary actions early in the training and the, I guess, probation period. But then you have to do regular supervision like you do on any job. And if you see that there are issues, then you have to have the courage, not only as a law enforcement administrator, but then also as union heads. Look, I was born and raised in a union. Both of my parents were 1199 SCIU. And we know that unions definitely protect and speak up for their members, but at the same time, you don't want to spend all of your political capital and all of your money protecting people who are not good actors. At the same time, I mean, bad actors in any profession leaves a stain on that profession. And so with our PBAs, I love our PBA, I'm supportive of our PBA, but at the same time, we need PBAs across the country who are willing to say, you know, this person is not representing us well. And we need to deal with and address. If you're gonna have a blue wall of silence, then you have to have a blue wall that is also going to hold people accountable and make sure that they're doing the right thing. And it's the same thing in our neighborhoods. If we're going to have a no snitch in the neighborhood, then we have to have people in the neighborhood that says we're going to hold people accountable. Look at that. You're in your neighborhood and the people love you. That's how it's, look, there's no way that I could do a Zoom from outside because it would be the same thing. What's up, man?
It's look, it's again, that's a good feeling when, you know, when you are, again, you're in the community and people are saying hello. You know, and usually I would, you know, this was a Zoom that I definitely wanted to take from home, from the quiet of my home, and have a dialogue. But, you know, again, I found out about that earlier today, and I was like, you know what, I have to make sure I support, you know, those folks in my community who are, you know, especially young people, man, because look, young people are truly going to lead on this. I think that's when we can infuse the youth with positive thoughts, with positive feelings and sentiments. There's nothing that we can't do, right? And but conversely, Madam Mayor, sometimes it's been a little tough, right? So when my 5-year-old Giada, shout out to Giada, I gotta make sure I say her name up there. We gotta make sure we speak the names. And Karina, I'm gonna get in trouble if I don't say both of them. Now, I've been trying my best to kind of keep the news away from them as much as I can, right? Because I know they're very perceptive and they're going to ask questions. And my oldest, she asked, she saw the picture of the officer kneeling on George Floyd, and you know, I wasn't quick enough to change the channel, and she asked, Dad, was that a police officer? And I was like, yes, it was. And well, I thought police officers help people. It looks like he's hurting that man. And I was stuck. I was like, well, yes, police officers do help people. Um, that 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 situation was very difficult, and you know, he shouldn't have done that. And you know, and I quickly pivoted and changed subjects. But I leave myself as a father not wanting to tell my daughter misinformation about the world, but wondering, are you ready for that? And at 5 years old, there's a lot of nuance that I can't explain to her, right? That she's simply not ready for at 5 years old. But I'd be doing a disservice if I would have just told her that everything was okay. And you know, this is one of the things that, you know, like, I'm an elected official, yeah, but I'm a Black man and I'm a father, and you know, how do I explain these things to my kids, right? Like that's something that there's no handbook on, right? You can, this is how you get a bill passed. You know, sign into law. You pass the Senate, you pass the Assembly, and the governor signs it. There's a blueprint there. How do you explain systemic racism, injustice, and brutality to your kids? How do you, as a Black man, internalize that this is the same playbook that's been happening over and over again? It's kind of like when and I wrote this on Facebook, and it bears worth repeating. Like, my dad, when I was living at home, no matter how jovial the conversation was, no matter how we could have been laughing about Def Comedy Jam as it was back in the day, if I left my house, he sternly stopped and he said, "Be safe, son." And I didn't get it. I thought he was just being an overprotective father, but I understood that "be safe" was, "Son, you may not come back home." And as a Black man, I'm coming to grips in reality that if you may not come back home, it may not just be at the hands of nefarious individuals in the streets. It may be at the hands of those who are supposed to protect you. And understanding that duality was something I still can't, you know, fully grasp.
Right.
But it's something that I am acutely aware of, and I want to make sure that we are as objective and as direct as possible about the need for change while respecting people and what they do.
So I just want to say something, because I think that it's amazing that you're out in the community. I love the fact that, you know, I get to see you at different basketball events and community cookouts even before COVID. But since COVID hit, you know, all of us are wearing, you know, more of our dress down clothes and our urban gear as we come out into the community, and we're doing different work on a even a much more regular basis. So you're an attorney, you're a senator.
I am.
You know, you are an accomplished individual, but like, Black lawyers matter. Absolutely.
I had to let you see that one.
Absolutely. And so those who might be seeing you kind of for the first time, because there might be some people who don't know who you are, they go, he's the senator. Yes, he is the senator. And you head the committee, like you said, on codes, which deals with criminal justice reform. And so you head that committee for the state of New York Senate. You're very accomplished, You are an incredible man in the community, and many people are used to seeing you in your suits. But every Black man who is a professional knows that people view them differently in their suits, and they look very differently when they're in their urban gear. And so, how do you switch up? How do you code switch? And how do you move in the community and in different places when you're in your suit? I mean, do people treat you differently in your suit than they do when you're in your urban gear if they don't remember and recognize you as the senator? How do you manage that duality?
Sometimes, right? Like one of the funniest stories I could tell you was when I was at BJ's. It was about 2 years ago. I was in the parking lot, and you know, I have a car that has you know, Senate plates on it, and I was loading the groceries there, and a gentleman walked by. It was a brother. He walked by, he looked at the car. He was like, "Man, these elected officials, they be tripping." And I was like, what happened? I see that Senate plates. Yeah, man. Like, you work for the senator, and like he got you, you know, buying his groceries, man. This is too far. Like, I've heard of staffers doing this and this and that, and I'm like, so like I'm trying not to laugh, and I'm like, all right. So he's like, who do you work for, man? He's like, I'm like, oh, this guy, Senator Bailey. He's like, I think I heard the name, so that made me feel all right. Like, all right, at least you heard of me, brother. You might not know what I look like outside of my suit, but you know, at least you heard of me. He's like, I'm like, all right, Senator Bailey. He's like, yeah, man, that's messed up, man. When I meet him, I'm gonna give him a piece of my mind. So I extended my hand to him. I said, like, nice to meet you. I'm State Senator Jamal Bailey. The dude, the dude could have seen a ghost, man. And he was like, oh, wow, but you're so young. I'm like, yeah, I am. You know, that's it on a jovial note. But sometimes, you know, people tend to, I guess they tend to underestimate you because they if they see you in a different light, they see you with a pair of Jordans on and a fitted cap, and they think that, you know, for some reason, somehow, some way, that your accomplishments are less because of what you wear.
Right. So, you know, I have some people who will call me, oh, the hip hop mayor or whatever. Look, I grew up in the hip hop generation, and I tell people I'm very comfortable in pumps and pearls, but I'm also very comfortable in a hoodie and some Timbs. That in order to be a diverse person, as a woman of color, as people of color, we have to know how to code switch. I'm comfortable on the basketball court, the ballroom, the White House, the boardroom. I'm comfortable in whatever setting I am. And my aunt, who was my executive coach growing up, she says, you have to learn how to dance on every floor. And that's what we have to do as people of color. We have to know how to operate and move seamlessly throughout all of the different areas that we have to show up in. And we have to do it in a way that they're very comfortable. And so I'm just as comfortable as I am on Third Street, as I am in Fleetwood, as I am on Kingsbridge Road. I'm comfortable if I go to the White House, and I'm comfortable if I'm standing behind the pulpit at church. I'm going to be comfortable wherever I am because we have to be. And so I wear my suits, but I also go out in my baseball caps, my fitteds, you know, in my Air Maxes, my Vapor Maxes, and that's what we have to be. But trust me, people do see you a different way. People see you, you know, I've heard people say, oh, you speak really well. I go, well, you know, really, what does that mean? I speak
Yeah.
well. Thank you.
You know, code switching is understandable, but you can never soul switch,
Oh,
right?
no.
I am who I am, right? And in my colloquialisms, they may be, you know, better served for certain places than others. Maybe the floor of the Senate isn't the best place for, you know what I mean, but maybe it is, right? Maybe it's a place where people should see who you are. It's the medium is the message. It's not necessarily what you say, but it's how you say it and how you deliver it. I have rapped on the floor of the New York State Senate. It is on video. I can't say it was done well per se, but I have rapped on the floor of the New York State Senate. You know, and it's one of these things that I have to be me. I have to be able to say it again, walk and chew gum at the same time. Yes, I can quote the New York Law Journal, but I can also quote Biggie, right? Like I
Yes.
can, you know, I can tell you that Tupac wrote the second verse of "If I Wonder If Heaven's Got a Ghetto" for times just like this. Like I can tell you that, and I can explain to you in legalese why he did it. and I'm proud of being able to do that, right? I'm proud of having that dual citizenship, for lack of a better term. I got a passport to 2 places, you know.
Well, look, that's part of the reason why you were elected, because you were relatable. But people also knew that while you were relatable, that you could represent them in the halls of justice, that you could represent them in the New York State Capitol. And I tell people all the time, yes, I'm the mayor, but people voted for Shawyn and all that Shawyn is and all that Shawyn brought to the table. And if I lose Shawyn in the midst of being the mayor, then I don't know if I am any longer the person who the people elected as mayor. So, you know, we have to balance it at all times. I'm just so grateful that you're here. I mean, do you have any tips for our young people and our adults who are out here right now who are hurting and who are losing hope and who are looking to find an opportunity to tie a knot in the rope so that they could hold on again, because people feel like they're slipping? How can we help people tie a new knot and so that they can hold on?
So from a purely governmental side, right? If there's something that we can help you with, right? If there's something that you need assistance with in the community, you should give us a call. Our offices are physically not open right now because of the COVID-19 crisis, but we're responsive to emails and phone, and we're responding to messages. The phone number is 718-547-8854. 718-547-8854. And the email is Senator J. Bailey at nysenate.gov. If there's something that's happening, right? I represent 318,000 plus people. And I wish I knew every single thing that was on all of your minds. I really wish I did, but I need for you to tell me what's happening, and we'll do our best to fix it. As far as from a hope perspective, you know, I grew up in the church, and my favorite gospel song is by Reverend Timothy Wright, "Trouble Don't Last Always."
Yes.
And like, and he may not come when you want him, but he's on time, right?
Time.
And this is a time where we're waiting for good news. We're waiting for that silver lining in the clouds. And I have to tell you that it's not going to last always. You have to be able to keep the faith and believe in that things will turn around. Now, as the book also said, faith without works is dead, right? So
That's
you
right.
can't just believe. You have to figure out what can you do to get that done. And sometimes you can't get things done on your own. I would venture to say that none of us can get things done on our own. So from a legislative perspective, we're here to help. From a community perspective, we're here to help. If we can guide you the resources that you need in such a time of crisis where we have unemployment rates through the roof, we're here to help. And I want people to understand, especially young people, right? Don't worry about being the next anybody. Be the first you. I took my daughter to a swim class, and there was an overzealous mother there one day talking about telling her daughter that to swim really fast so she could be the next Michael Phelps. First and foremost, young ladies, you don't need to be the next Michael to be anything. Women are powerful and amazing, and I tell my daughters that every day, and they know that. I know I'm outnumbered in my household, 3-1. I'm never going to win that, right? So you don't have to be Michael to be anybody. You can be Michelle or Sean. You could be Deborah. You could be Lisa. You could be Andrea, right? All of the first women you could be Tish, right? All of the first women that are in our community, in our life right now, right? That's what's happening right now. But I want young people to know that you can come from Fulton Avenue between 225th and 226th Street. You can go to Bronx Science. You can go to CUNY Law School, and you can be a legislator if you work hard and you want to do that. There is no limit on what we can do, no matter how rough it is right now. I really want people to understand that, it's a really rough time. So many of us have lost people to COVID-19, myself included. My amazing mother-in-law succumbed to COVID-19 on March 27th. We miss her every single day.
Absolutely.
My wife misses her every single day. But this is a time where I want you to know that if you hear my voice, it's not just rhetoric. Like, I really believe that like you can do anything if you work hard and you have that right network and you have the people who are willing to I guess lift as they climb, as the saying would go, right?
That's one of my favorite.
Mm-hmm. Every step you take, if I'm climbing high and I'm not bringing somebody with me, I'm useless. just putting it straight like that. Like if I'm not trying to help somebody achieve the next level or whatever that level is, I'm not helping anybody. And I shouldn't run for re-election. I shouldn't be helpful. I shouldn't be here. I have to be able to help the next generation, point blank, period. The day that I'm not doing that, I shouldn't work for you guys anymore. Straight like that.
Well, you know, as far as I'm concerned, please know from henceforth and forevermore, you're my wonder twin. You're my wonder twin. I got some age on you, but my heart and my spirit, your grind, your passion, your authenticity, it matches up, it aligns. We love our community, you know, and I tell people I'm at the point that I care so much that I don't give a, you know, because we got to, I mean, really, I care so much that I no longer give a, but because that's what we have to do. So this is the time to lift up our voice in a way that is responsible and not reckless. This is a time to be focused and fearless, but not fatalistic. And so I look forward to continuing to work with you and doing the things that we need to do to support our young people in our community and help them to organize and to be strategic and intentional so that we can change policy in a way that will impact not just our present, but our future. So thank you so much, Senator.
Absolutely. Madam Mayor, thank you so much for the opportunity. Mount Vernon, I know you got to reach beyond Mount Vernon. You know, everybody that's tuning in, I just want to say thank you for tuning in, for supporting our wonderful mayor. Support Mount Vernon. Keep the faith. I see my partner, my colleague in government, Congressman Elliot Engel, is on the line, and I'm always excited to work with my Congress member too. So I want to make sure I shout you out, Elliot, and just make sure that we know, you know, I'm here to work for you because that's my job. I work for you. I work for the people.
Thank you so much, Senator. You have a great one and enjoy the evening and enjoy your family.
Thank you so much. Take care, everybody.
Take care. So we are transitioning now and we're pulling in our Congressman Engel. How are you, Congressman Engel?
Fine, how are you? Except I'm trying to figure out which glasses to wear. You know, I can read something, I need one, and when I look at you, I need the other one. So there's got to be a way of combining them. I don't know.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, the above the lens line and below the line. So I'm so honored to have you here, Congressman Engel. Congressman Engel is our United States Congressman. He represents parts of, Yonkers, Mount Vernon, the Bronx, some other communities, and we're just grateful to have you here. You are the head of the Foreign Affairs Committee for the United States Congress, correct?
Yes, yes.
Yes. And you have been serving as a leader in helping us deal with so many of things that are happening around the world and around the globe. But you've also been very much of a leader in addressing the challenges that we are having with 45.
Right. Well, you know, when you get run for office and you do things, you have to be multifaceted. You know, you have to be prepared to switch and do things. I want to point out that my district office, my Westchester district office, is right in the heart of Mount Vernon. And as I want everybody to know what you and I talked about the last time, if you look out your window and I look out mine, we can see each other.
Yes. Yes, you look, I'm going to say this off the back because I've heard some things and people have said, you know, oh, Elliot Engel hasn't been in the district, he's in DC, but you're in DC right now because you are fighting the fight to make sure that COVID money comes back to your district, okay? You are fighting the fight to make sure that criminal justice and medical funds come to our community. So I wanna thank you for the millions of dollars. As a senior congressman, you have access, you have a seat at the table, and you have always done the work. In my experience, when I've come down to DC, even before becoming mayor, I've had an opportunity to visit you at your office. When we've spoken to you about the fact that whether I was at the Y as the CEO, whether I was working in drug court, we reach out to you when we're putting in grants and say, can you use your influence to see and helpfully advance, you know, the needs we have in here in the community. And you've always been not only resourceful, but you've always been available. You've always been a person of your word. And while you're not about flash and dash, you've been about results. So I want to thank you.
Well, thank you. And I want to say I am in New York now. I am in my district now. And, you know, as you know, when you're doing a campaign with people, all kinds of foolish words come out of your opponent's mouths because I got elected to go to Washington. That's what the people in this district, Westchester and the Bronx, elected me to represent them in Washington. And when all was said and done, because we've been having all this money appropriated, my being in Washington was there to fight for my community and to fight for the cities and towns that I represent.
Yes.
If I didn't go to Washington, then I think you could point the finger and say he's not doing his job. But this is the first time I ever heard someone being accused of not doing their job because they went to the place where that they were elected for. It's really funny, and of course you know this. I want to just I don't want to get this wrong at all. 15.2 million went to the Mount Vernon Hospital. We're going to keep that hospital open. Mount Vernon Neighborhood Health Center, which we all love. 2 million from the CARES Act and 392,000 to help the center increase testing. And again, of the CEO and everyone I've spoken with, we will have to make sure that in Mount Vernon that the people's medical needs are taken care of, because that's what people want. I mean, we all, as we get older, as our kids grow up, we want to know that we have a reasonable health care. And that's one of the things in this country that we're falling behind on, because people can't afford it. And so whether it's Medicare for all, which I've been fond of, or some other way of working it out, we've just got to do it. We have to pull ourselves together. And we were talking about the terrible incidents that happened just a few days ago in Minneapolis. And, you know, I lay a lot of it right at the doorstep of the president, because when he has a mouth that keeps running and the rhetoric is hateful, that's what people think, oh, it's okay to just be hateful. Instead of having the president who is a moral leader, almost like a pastor, you know, a moral leader. We don't have that. And so, frankly, I don't want to get political here, but I think we need a change. And I hope that Joe Biden wins, because I think he's going to provide the kind of leadership we need. Doesn't mean we'll always agree with him, but you know, given what we're going through as a country now, it sure would be nice to have a leader who would try to soothe things over and heal the pain, instead of one who just couldn't give a damn. So anyway, and on a local level, I'm so excited to have you as mayor, because you and I are friends way before that, and I know I know you're doing a fine job, and you're doing a fine job, and I'm going to do it with you. I'm going to keep working and fighting for Mount Vernon. I'm going to keep working and fighting for all the places in Westchester, because that's, again, as you know, one of the things that you and I have to do. We have to bring money, because without money, government can't function and people can't get help. And we're not all about that. We believe in government. I always tell people I don't believe in too much government, but just enough to make sure people are taken care of.
Exactly.
That's really what it's for.
Well, you know, as I was running for mayor, one of the things that I always said is that it was important for our local community to have relationships on a city, a county, a state, and a federal level. And that's because the county provides us with resources and partnerships. The state does the same, and the federal government. And so thank you, because, you know, we received about $1.5 million through HUD in COVID CARES Act money. And that money will go towards working on, you know, rent prevention, eviction prevention, giving some money to our small businesses, working to help us purchase some of the medical equipment that we are short of, like ambulances, because during the height of COVID, and we are concerned that it might come back, you know, we just didn't have enough ambulances, and we had to rely on ambulances through mutual aid throughout the county. So there are things that we are looking at to, like I said, support making sure that we have the medical infrastructure and the emergency infrastructure in place, to make sure that we're providing some support for our small businesses, and then also making sure that we're able to continue to feed the community, because there is a lot of hunger that's happening right now. And then additionally, to help with rent eviction prevention funds. So I want to thank you because you were in Washington fighting to make sure that some of that money came to Mount Vernon. And I want to thank our Senator Schumer as well as our Senator Gillibrand, because the three of you are the trifecta who are fighting for us on a federal level. You are our federal representatives, and we need good partners, like I said, who have relationships and who have a commitment to the community.
Well, thank you. And with you as mayor, it gets 10 times as good, actually, because, you know, as I said before, we don't know each other just from yesterday. And I was always impressed and was so happy when you were elected, because I know you're going to continue to do a great job, and we're going to continue to do it together, side by side, fight for the people of Mount Vernon, and make sure that people understand that we care about them. Those of us that get into government and politics and elected officials, we're not anointed. We got to get in and fight for it. We do it because we still believe in the system with all the problems it has. And we want the system to work for us. We want to make sure that the system doesn't only work for the high and mighty, but that it works for just the average person. And, you know, in a way that's what's so galling about what tragedy in Minnesota, because people are, nobody should have to ever go through with that, Mr.
So Congressman Ingalls, since that is a very current issue, what's happened in Minnesota, the police brutality case and the death of George Floyd, and what happened in Georgia with Ahmaud Arbery, you know, as a federal elected, what are some of the things that you feel can be done on a federal level through legislation to really impact what's happening in the state and the local municipalities?
Well, in terms of legislation, of course, it's a state by state thing, but the federal government, it does supersede the states. And I think that some of these horrific crimes ought to be federal crimes. You know, just, I tell you, I'm sick to my stomach these past few days because of how horrific it is. You know, every time we think the years go on and we're getting better, and look, things have improved. I mean, I'm not going to say everything's terrible. Things have improved, but obviously not enough. Obviously more needs to be done. And those of us that are elected have to sort of hold hands and lead the way. That's what people elected us for. And I'm going to continue to be as loud as I can. You know, I remember that when this sort of thing happened with Eric Garner in Staten Island a few years ago, he was selling loose cigarettes. And this gentleman was supposedly passing a counterfeit bill. So he gives his life for something like that. I mean, it just makes you sick. And we're not going to tolerate it anymore. This is, you know, no matter how old each of us are, we're moving on from what was in the past, and we're not going to tolerate it anymore. This is a new country, a new society, and I'm not prepared to be quiet about this. And I know you're not, and neither are all of us. It's just horrific. And now, you know, growing up in New York, I always liked New York. So, you know, we've always felt that we were ahead of the game because we grew up in New York, but we have problems here too.
Absolutely.
You know, and so it's up to us. Those are big shoulders we need to carry, but we're going to do it. And we have lots of homegrown talent in Mount Vernon, and we have lots of people that have expertise and care about things, and we care as well. So we'll keep working together, and I'll keep bringing those federal dollars home to Mount Vernon.
Well, thank you so much. So you have an election. I want to make sure that before we get off the line today, that we make it clear that you are running for re-election. You have a primary on June 23rd.
Yes.
Because of COVID, everything is being done through absentee ballot. What do we need to do, and what do the people have to understand? We're going to put a link in here so people know how to access the absentee ballots. They should have been receiving them in the mail, but we want to make sure that people know there is a primary election on June 23rd, that it is going to be done through absentee ballot. And if you can give me three compelling reasons why the people who are watching, because I don't just have a Mount Vernon audience, we have a Westchester and some Bronx audience. So let us know and let them know why they should continue to support you and send you back to Washington to represent Westchester and the Bronx.
Well, thank you. Again, I think that what I always say is this. We have 2-year terms in Congress, and it's a contract, which is renewable at the end of the term. So I ask people to renew my contract. I've done that 16, 17 times, and they've renewed my contract because they know that I work hard and I fight for the people. Some people don't know about me that I was rated one of the 10 most effective members of the United States Congress. I grew up in a city housing project in the Bronx. So my dad was a union welder, and we didn't have much money. We were poor, but we didn't know it, one of those sorts of things. And I always got a strong sense of social justice from my mother and my father. And it's something that I take with me to this day. And I think it's something that's very, very important. And we will not tolerate, this is not going to be business as usual, where everybody blows off steam and we forget about it and we go back to the same. This has to change. And I think all people of goodwill, regardless of their history or their background or their race or their religion or their ethnicity, we all want the same thing. We want this country to fundamentally be what we says we're going to be every day when we do the Pledge of Allegiance. We pledge allegiance, liberty and justice for all, not just for some, but for all. But again, we have a president who doesn't seem to care. I was one of the impeachment leaders. Nancy Pelosi appointed me, and I was the chairman of my committee. We worked on the witnesses. We spoke with the witnesses, and we voted to impeach him. Unfortunately, he wasn't convicted. I'm going to just keep working for to make sure that these past 4 years are forgotten and are replaced by someone who really, really wants to bring this country together. This is really something that's, that can't be tolerated. I'm now in the middle of the Inspector General. They're investigating him, and the president made him resign. We think that there were terrible things done, and we're now trying to do that. So little by little, we're trying to do things, but I always remember one thing. It's you got to come home and you got to meet the people, and you've got to not take people for granted. It's not my seat, it's the people's seat. And if the people see the fact to give me another 2-year contract, I'm eternally grateful to them. And then you and I can continue working together.
And I want to thank you for having always such thoughtful and available staff, because while you're in DC representing us, you have an incredible ground crew here in the Bronx and in Westchester that are representing you and serving the needs of your constituents. And so I've had opportunity to work with Gladys Miller and Effie and Tyree Woodson Samuels and Bill. And I'm muted. Is that okay? And Bill and other staff. So I just want to say thank you so much for making sure that the people who represent you in your office, in your district offices, that they are accessible to the community, that they are responsive, but then they also do their research and they understand the issues and they get back to us. And so I'm not trying to boost you up. I'm just saying what my experience has been, whether it's been as mayor, whether it's been CEO of the Y, whether it's been the head of drug court, whether it's been a community activist or a community leader. I've always been able to reach out to your staff. During COVID, they've been coming out, they've been volunteering at not only the city's food distribution, but at distribution with Life Progressive Services. I know that you and I are working in June to have a blood drive, because we know that the blood center is low. And so your staff has been working with us on doing a blood drive at the health center. You've been supportive around mental health. You've been supportive around public safety. And so we're very grateful. And as you've already stated, you continue to bring money back to the district and to the region for not only health, but education and public safety. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for all those kind words. And I always knew you were a good mayor, but you were a great friend. And
Thank you.
I'm just so happy. You know, Mount Vernon has so much potential, and you are the right person to be leading the charge. And I'll be right behind you, or right next to you, even better.
Thank you. We're side by side, leading the charge. So are there any closing words or any closing thoughts that you have for the audience? Is there anything that you want them to know?
Well, I would say this, that we are a great country, but we're made up of people, and people have flaws. I know sometimes we don't think we individually have flaws, but we all have flaws. And I think we have to take the greatness that is this country and the people that are this country and make sure that the people win. And the people will win. They'll win because you're elected, because I'm elected, because we care. And there are plenty of others, Senator Bailey and so many others in government. They care. And, you know, we're the real America. We really are. I really believe that. We're the real America. And we just need to stand together and make sure that the people who would divide us, bring us down, cause hardships are not going to succeed. We're not going to succeed at all. And I mentioned before, we always end the Pledge of Allegiance with liberty and justice for all. All means all, not part of the people, or depending on what you look like, depending on what your skin color is, depending on what God you worship. No, it's all. And I'll tell you, as long as I'm in office, I'm never going to stop fighting for all, for the right of anybody. You know, the old saying, I don't agree with what you say, but I will fight to the death for your right to say it. And so I believe that we have to make sure in this country that all people are protected, and then government is one of the protectors, and we're there to help the people, not the other way around. And thank you, Mayor, for that, because not only are they great doing things, they also teach. They also, what does Tyree not know, Bernie? You know?
He knows, he knows. Trust me, I speak to Tyree quite a few times a week. And I see him out in the community as well as Effie and Gladys always, and Bill was, you know, always there. So thank you. We're getting ready to transition from this show. We're going to go off and cut off, and then we're going to come back on in about 5 more minutes with candidates who are running for library trustee here in Mount Vernon. And you've always been a great supporter of libraries as well as, you know, literacy and education. So that's the next thing that I'm going to switch off. You know, we're doing a lot here on Sunday night with everyone being home. This is one of the best ways to communicate with our community. And trust me, this show tonight will also air on our website as well as our public access station for those people who do not have internet and are not on social media. So this will not only be on this platform, it will show on other platforms. We thank you so much for coming, and you are always welcome to come and hang out and chat with us on Sundays or Tuesdays or Thursdays. And we look forward to continuously working with you. Oh, as always, thank you so much, Congressman, and have a great evening.
Thank you. You too. It's a deal.
It's a deal. Thank you. Good night.